shadow rising up the paradise. I know I'm gonna shine. You are with me. You are not leaving. Then voices in the need. You will soon receive me. You're standing on the beach. The sea will part before me. We will burn in the air. And you will follow me. And we will rise to glory. Way up in the air. And I'll call out thunder and speak the same. And my word fills the sky with flame. And I can fly, gonna be my name. And make all life my way. So we're on lesson number 47 today in the Workbook of A Course in Miracles. God is the strength in which I trust. And sooner or later, and I would actually say that many of you, maybe unbeknownst to you, and even unrecognized by you, many of you at one time or another in this short span of your incursion into space and time have already had the experience of trusting in the strength of God when you found yourself in some jackpots and with no place left to go but to get on your knees and surrender finally and pray. And in the instant of your surrender and prayer, some sort of miraculous occurrence made itself available that showed you there was another way of looking at this that was not based on the past and would not allow the future to be the same as the past, and you and everyone involved was changed. And that's what Jesus in this lesson is making us aware of, and making us aware of the manner by which we can come to live this way. You'll find this is an interesting idea toward the end. Now try to slip past all concerns related to your own sense of inadequacy. The recognition of your own frailty is a necessary step in the correction of your errors, but it's hardly sufficient one in giving you the confidence which you need and to which you are entitled. You must also gain awareness that your confidence in your real strength is fully justified in every respect and in all circumstances. And that only comes with practice. It doesn't come with a conceptual understanding that you teach without the experience. And as you gain in confidence and allow this lesson to become justified within you by the use of it, your strength and the willingness to allow the strength of God to be your strength actually become what you rely on, rather than what you previously relied on as a human being making your way through the world of space and time, and feeling, in a sense, the loss of control in situations that you've been in, despite the thought that you had all your bases covered. So God is the strength in which I trust. If you are trusting your own strength, you have every reason to be apprehensive, anxious, and fearful. Okay, let's look at that in a particular way right now. What this is saying is every time you have been apprehensive, every time you have been anxious, and every time you've been fearful, the effects of apprehension, anxiety, and fearfulness are because you are trusting in your own strength. Sometimes it's easier to get this if you reverse what Jesus is saying and look at it, in a sense, right side up. But remember, the human being, the ego, is always causing you to see everything upside down. So what Jesus is saying quite simply is every time you've been apprehensive, every time you've experienced anxiety, and every time you've been fearful, it's because you've been relying on your own strength. Now, who, to which this video is not being viewed by, has not experienced those effects, those consequences? So you're being offered a way to no longer have to live that way, with the admission that, in fact, that you have experienced those things, and the desire to no longer continue to experience those things. We're being interrupted. I think it's God calling. I don't really know, but I'm sure I can call them back in a little while.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Let's see how do we do this.
It's just me.
That's part of God's strength. It's my brother. What can you predict or control? What is there in you that can be counted on? What would give you the ability to be aware of all the facets of any problem and to resolve them in such a way that only good can come of it? What is there in you that gives you the recognition of the right solution and the guarantee that it will be accomplished? If I could make a suggestion to everyone listening to this, there's a section in the course entitled As for the Rest. As for all the rest, and I believe it appears in back of the manual for teachers, in back of what used to be the clarification of terms, or in the use of terms. Take a look at what that says. What he's suggesting is that if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're sick and tired of being fearful, if you're sick and tired of being anxious, if you're sick and tired of feeling guilt, then it becomes obvious that you need a new way to deal with the problems that you face in your own daily life, in the mundanity of the life that you live. And the only way is to allow for the guidance that comes from the voice of God to be what you say yes to in these situations, by remembering to ask. Remember, ask and you shall receive, by remembering to ask and receive the guidance and simply say yes. I could tell you a couple of stories about when I said no to the guidance, and unbeknownst to me, I set myself up for a world of trouble until the ability for that guidance to come back around and be offered to me once again, to which I could say yes. And perhaps it's necessary. Perhaps it's necessary for us to get the guidance and reject it, and then be offered it once again, where we can no longer reject it because we see the outcome of the rejection of the guidance. It's happened to me on a couple occasions, and I guarantee you, the refusal to accept the strength of God and trust in it in the situations I was given to trust in it in, caused me a world of hurt. And it was not until I was offered that strength once again in a very similar situation that I could remember that I had said no, and with the willingness to recognize what my saying no had caused me, be willing to say, in the humility of not knowing and no longer wanting, and seeing the frailty of my own decision-making capacity, the willingness to say, yes, that's what I want. And it's scary to the human mind, it's scary to the egoic mind, because the egoic mind makes its decisions based on its ability to evaluate the past, with the hope that its evaluation of the past will be sufficient to allow all the bases of its thinking to be covered in such a way that the answer it gives and the course it determines allows the outcome to be what he wants to be. And it's never worked for anybody when, and this is a question I would ask everyone, when in the short past that you remember, this time in your sojourn, when did anything happen the way you thought it was going to happen? It's that simple. When did it happen that way? And yet, here you are being offered the ability to learn a lesson wherein which your will and the will of God can align and become one, single in the strength of the totality of God's will, where joy in the doing of God's will becomes the outcome of the saying yes to God's will. What I found quite often since I've been working with the courses, the guidance that I get, I simply need to say yes to. And in the willingness to say yes, it is made manifest and unfolds before me as it rolls up the carpet behind me, and heals all the wounds that seem to have been brought upon myself from my unwillingness to say yes in prior situations. Of yourself, you can do none of these. To believe that you can is to put your trust where trust is unwarranted. It's really a simple thing. It's very simple. You just have to really look at your own past objectively, see where it's taken you, what it's brought you, and see where it's taken you and what it's brought the people around you. And be willing to admit that you have no control over what occurs, in spite of your attempt to. And then you can begin to see the reasonability and the logic of accepting this lesson and practicing it, because it's not in the mere understanding of the lesson, it's in the practice. It's in the practice of the lesson that allows you to trust God's strength, which you share with God, not as a concept, but as a reality, as an actuality indeed. God is your safety in every circumstance. His voice speaks for him in all situations and in every aspect of all situations, telling you exactly what to do to call upon his strength and his protection. It tells you exactly what to do. So this is an indication that there is a voice, and that voice can be heard by you. And while it is, many think that it's the voice of their real self, their true self, their right mind. It's the voice for God that speaks to you throughout the day, and is something that can be counted upon. There's a line toward the end that I wanted to get to. In the latter phase of practice period, try to reach down into your mind to a real place of safety. You will recognize that you have reached it if you feel a deep peace, however briefly. Let go of all the trivial things that churn and bubble on the surface of your mind and reach down and below them to the kingdom of heaven. There is a place in you where there is perfect peace, and you've never lost that place of perfect peace, because perfect peace is the totality of the reality of the kingdom of heaven, which you are a whole perfect part of and have never left. There is a place in you where the strength of God abides. And I can go into the details of many times I've been given the privilege in situations to reach down into that place of perfect peace where the will of the Father and the will of the Son are in perfect accord. That's one of the ways Jesus gives us to understand what the kingdom of heaven is. When the will of the Father and the will of the Son are in perfect accord, there lies the kingdom of heaven. And that lies in each and every one of us below where we desire to express our own little will, thinking that our own little will knows what is necessary to live a life in space and time. We don't. We've never been successful at it, and we've always gotten sickness, pain, suffering, and death as a result of our attempts. This time can be different for you because it's different for me already, and we can be of one mind because we are of one mind. God is the strength in which I trust, and it's justifiable indeed. And that's what I'd like each and every one of you to find out for yourself, actually. I mean, don't just listen to me. Allow yourself in some points of being in these jackpots that we make for ourselves in space and time, wherein which we think there's no way out but the ways out we have thought of, and we attempt to react once again rather than stop for a second and allow the concepts to be made true indeed by our willingness to listen to that voice and simply say, yes, it's a scary proposition at first. But sooner or later, what will be scarier will be the thought that perhaps it's not there when you need it, but it's always there, not only when you need it, because we need it all the time, but always. It's always available. This lesson requires practice, not just conceptual understanding and acquiescence. We could all acquiesce. We could all think we understand it conceptually, but the proof is in the pudding indeed. And, it is my hope that each and every one of you today find a point in time in your own experience where you're willing to let this be true. Because I guarantee you, the more you're willing to trust in the strength of God to be true, indeed, in your actions, the more you will trust that in each and every moment. And your life will be changed. It'll be different. You'll feel the difference, you'll know the difference, and you'll accept why the difference is being made, why you're different. And then, as you become witness to the strength of God, to that shared strength that's available to us when the will of the Father and the will of the Son are made one and become in alignment, you'll begin to recognize the laws of the kingdom and operate from those laws rather than the laws of man. And then indeed, heaven and earth will no longer exist as separate states in you. And as Jesus once said, the kingdom of heaven is all around you. You'll begin to see the kingdom that is laid out all around you that perhaps you could not see before except in glimpses. You'll be able to see indeed that there is no separation between heaven and earth, because there's no longer a separation in your will and the will of God. You will have been made one. Your eye will be single, and you'll see with the singleness of the light of God through your own eye, through your own spiritual eye, that we're learning to reopen by our actions rather than through the acceptance of concepts and the acquiescence that we all have maybe said, the lip service that we've given these lessons. God is the strength in which I trust indeed. So go ahead and trust in the strength of God indeed, and you'll see how everything is changed before you.